I should have worn my hiking boots. Instead, I had on my super soft, oh so comfy, but oh so inappropriate gray Skechers. And the trail was littered with tree roots, sharp pointy rocks, and sneaky round boulders that trip you up when you're not looking. Now, it had been gentle and easy at first. This path was really nice. There was lots of landmarks. It was a tree with a wide point of branches that were stuck fast against the trunk of another big tree, forming the bones of a natural shelter. And I sort of daydreamed as I walked past it, thinking, wow, if you spread a tarp over the top of that, that'd make a great tent. And there was other tree trunks that were laid edgewise along the edge of the path, and they were really big, so they're really obvious. So they made great markers. But then that path, it started plunging steeply down and down and down. And it took all my concentration not to trip or slip or slither my way off the edge. And it was a long way down to the bottom. And it was hot and it was sweaty. And I kept thinking, you know what, we have to climb back up all this. And I am going to be so puffed. I'm going to be really, really tired. Hi, and welcome to the Online Business Launchpad podcast. I'm your host, Trudy Rankin. And my husband and I were on a weekend hike on Mount Buffalo in Victoria, and we were headed down to a place called Rollison's Falls. And we had just stopped on a bit of a whim. We had been going to go play mini golf, but my husband decided he wanted to go for a walk down to these Rollison Falls. And I said, okay, that's fine. We'll just run down and run back. And we got onto the path and it was like 2K down to the falls. And I'm thinking, oh, that's further than I thought. And I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm actually more used to the flat or the gently rolling paths around Melbourne. And those steep mountain paths that we were on, they actually challenged the lungs and the leg muscles a bit. And I was starting to feel it. But finally, after a lot of scrambling around, we made it down to not one, but two waterfalls at the bottom of the gorge. And the first one was beautiful and completely devoid of people. There's these massive granite boulders and a waterfall coming down over the edge of it. But the second waterfall, which was the one at the bottom, was absolutely stunning. The waterfall was at the far end, away from where the path came in. The bottom of the creek was sandy, was just filled with sand. The water was crystal clear. And there was a big rock at the other end with natural stair steps down to the water's edge. Now, there was a couple of people playing in the creek below the swimming hole, but the actual swimming hole was completely empty and devoid of people. So my husband and I just sort of did a bit of rock scrambling. We took a really good look around. We really just admired the view of the falls. And now I was still hot and I was still sweaty. And I looked at that water and I thought, oh, that just looks so inviting. And I thought, I should go swimming. So I suggested this to my husband and he instantly knocked it back. He was hungry and he wanted to go back up to our camper van so that we could get some lunch. And I thought, yeah, I'm kind of hungry too, but we're here and we're probably never going to be back here again. And I thought, blow this. We're never going to be here again. I'm going to do this. And so I just said, I'm going to go swimming. And I thought he would protest because when he's hungry, and so am I. But all he did was just give me an incredulous look. And then he said, but you'll get soaked walking back up the hill. You know, you'll have wet shoes and all this sort of thing. And I said, I don't care. I don't care. It's going to be worth it to have wet shoes to be able to go swimming in that water. It's just so beautiful. So I sat down, took off my shoes, took off my socks, and I would have liked to take off a little bit more, but there were too many people around to take off any more than that. So then off came the watch and off came the glasses. And I quickly discovered that removing my glasses was a mistake. I could not see clearly enough to check for sharp, pointy rock bits. And I ended up yelping my way to the natural rock stairs down to the water. And that water was cold. So I waited and I sort of half waited, half swam over to the waterfall. And then it got so deep over there that I couldn't touch bottom. So I swam further up to it, just admired the view, the spray coming off of it. And I swam around the edges, looking at the rocks and the sand on the bottom. And like I said, the water was crystal clear. You could see everything. It was just extraordinarily beautiful. And I finally got out of the water. It was really quite cold. And so then I sat on the sun-warmed rock just to drip dry as much as possible, because there's nothing nastier than walking up a hill on a gravel dirt path with wet shoes. That's just yuck. So I sat there, and while we sat there, we watched the sunlight dance on the water, and it made it look like ripples of light dancing across the bottom of the pool. And it was really gorgeous, and it was almost hypnotic. Now, I can assure you that there were no thoughts about work in my head in any way, shape, or form. I was just sitting there absorbing the beauty that was around me. And it was just lovely, really, really lovely. Now, you remember when I was starting out talking about this, I was thinking to myself, that walk back up the hill is going to be such a pain. It's super steep. It's dusty. There's so many rocks and things to trip over. And I wasn't looking forward to going back up the hill. But I have to say that going back up the hill was a real revelation to me, because I was expecting to be hot and sweaty and tired and out of breath. But what actually happened was that my quick drying clothes were still wet enough that they kept me cool. And our pace was leisurely, but brisk enough to help us make progress pretty quickly. And we'd pass people going the other way, and they would anxiously ask us how far that they had to go, because they were the ones going down the steep bit, which is where it's a little bit trickier, because if you trip and fall, you got a long way to go. Whereas if you're going up and you trip and fall, you're just going to land on your nose. It's no big deal. You can stop yourself from hurting yourself. But every time somebody would ask us how far they had to go, we'd say, it's not far, and it's beautiful down there. You're really going to enjoy it. And they would look relieved, and they'd move past us down the steep path. And all of a sudden, as we kept walking, I suddenly realized that we were going past those landmarks that I'd noticed earlier, that tree trunk that had fallen down and formed a lovely place for a tent. And it felt like only 5 minutes had passed since we'd left the pool. I felt refreshed and I felt relaxed. And I've just been reflecting on that for quite a while since we did that. It actually wasn't that long ago, and it's just stuck in my mind. And as a busy business owner, the lessons that I've taken away from this experience are that you need to give yourself time to get away from your normal routine. You need to grab the opportunities to do new and different things when you're out of your routine. And don't let naysayers put you off. If it's something that you really want to do it. I mean, obviously, you have to be aware of the people around you and their needs, but if it's not going to put them out too much, definitely do it. Don't let them put you off. And encourage others on your way up the hill, quotes, air quotes, up the hill, and whatever it is you're doing. If you encourage others, it's going to help you as much as it helps them. And then for me, the lesson was, next time, just take a picnic lunch and stay longer. Be more prepared, wear the right boots instead of my shoes, and just be willing to take the chance to step out of your routine, do something a little different, a little bit unusual, and just enjoy the benefits, the mental health benefits of doing that, and just refresh your mind. So I hope you've enjoyed that little story. That's just something that's happened in my life recently. And I'd like to ask you, what's the one thing you're going to do this week that's completely different to your usual routine, so that you can get a chance to just sit and clear your mind and refresh yourself just a little bit? And I hope you have a great week.